Hey, if you didn't know, when I was 23 years old, I was facing life in prison for a crime I didn't commit. You never know who's watching and how you're going to positively impact them. Like, you get results in your life, you take action, you might inspire that person that never even says anything to you to get sober, to go to the gym, to start their own business, to be a better person. That's what I mean, dude. There's invisible stuff happening around you all the time. You don't know who's receiving your messages. You don't know who's watching your behavior. You don't know who's going to be impacted or inspired by who you're becoming. And when you take action, you give them permission to pursue their dreams. You give them the courage to go after what they want in life and not settle. Together, man, we can change millions and billions of lives. Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Crane. Thank you guys for tuning into the channel. Hey, if you didn't know, when I was 23 years old, I was facing life in prison for a crime I didn't commit, and I ended up serving 5.5 years in prison. It was the most profound experience of my life, and it changed everything for me. In fact, it was a blessing in disguise that at the time I couldn't see, but it has radically changed my life for the better ever since. Today, I want to talk to you about something that happened to me in prison that was very impactful, and it continues to happen in my life today. You know, I was sharing with these guys on my coaching call this week. I mentor hundreds of men in my company, Unstoppable 365, on mindset, fitness, nutrition, and we do a weekly call. And that day I was talking to them about how people are always watching you, whether you realize it or not. And for me, it's the ultimate motivation and inspiration, knowing my children are watching me, knowing people on social media are watching me, knowing my team members and people that work with me are watching me. I want to be the best version of myself so that I could positively impact them. I want to inspire you to be better each and every day in the way you live, by how I'm living and the habits that I demonstrate. And it's so important to me because I truly care. Like, I care so much because I know pain, I know suffering, I know struggle, and I know what it's like to alleviate those things in your life and get to a place where you love what you're doing, in a place where you have so much gratitude, in a place where you're like, this is the life I always wanted. I'm the person I always wanted to be. It's the greatest experience that you could ever have, and I've been on both sides. And so my goal is to find people that are still in that dark place and bring them into the light. And I'm just one person, you guys. I'm not like this special, gifted, different person than you. I've just put in the work. And when I say bring you into the light, I'm doing God's work. Everything that I do is an indirect mission that God's put me on. And I'm just following that path, and that's what I did in prison. Every day it was my conscience, it was my intuition. I did the work, whether I was scared or doubtful, and over time it compounded into me becoming somebody different, somebody more disciplined, more confident, with more belief in myself, somebody with a vision and a purpose in his life. And in prison, I mentored a lot of guys, and I spent a lot of time working out with individuals, having conversations, playing chess, showing them what books I was reading, helping a lot of guys get in college courses. And, something really impactful happened to me on my last day of prison. I was getting ready to leave, and suddenly no one came to get me. I was sitting there waiting. I had my prison blues on. I had my bag of belongings over my shoulder, a bunch of books and stuff I'd saved, and paperwork and things like that, and no officers came to get me. And the time in the morning when people usually leave came and went, and I was still sitting there going, dude, what's going on? Like, come on, this can't be happening. Like, today's my day to get out. 5.5 years, overcoming so much adversity. You picture that moment getting out, and you wait for it and anticipate it, and you just want to get back out and be with your family and be free. And so finally, like 2 hours later, they came and they're like, Crane, it's time to go. They had a mix-up or something. And so they pulled me out onto the yard, and I'm waiting at the gate to go up to the front of the prison, get my new clothes, my dress outs, they call them, street clothes, and get picked up my brother and sister. And so as I'm waiting to get let out, they start releasing all the buildings to go to breakfast, to go to chow that morning. And you don't want to be on the yard while other inmates are going to eat that shitty breakfast. Like, here I'm going home. I'm going to go to IHOP. I'm having steak and eggs, pancakes and milkshake. I'm getting free. And some of these guys are never going home. Some of them got 25 more years to do. It's just not a good look, and it's a respect thing. You don't want to just be sitting there gloating, all cheerful because you're going home, and these guys still got decades to do. And I was aware of that. So as they start getting released to walk around the track and go to the building, I'm like, fuck, man, like, these guys are going to be mean mugging me, And it was quite the opposite. I started hearing somebody from the distance yelling, and what they were yelling, they were saying, Captain America, go get him, Crane. Go get him, bro. Like, get out there and do your thing. And in prison, they used to call me Captain America because I was a white guy, I had no tattoos, I had blonde hair, and I'd just be working out all the time, and I was super fit. And they'd clown, but in a good way, right? It was a respect thing. Like I kept my head down, I was focused, I was consistent, and you know, I had the respect of all the other inmates because of that. And so I can't tell you how many people in that moment yelled over to me something positive and encouraging. These are guys that might not ever get out, guys that still had decades to do in prison. And they see me going home and they're like, that's right, Crane, go out there, man, and make an impact on the world. Do your thing, you know? And it was really humbling and it was a really beautiful moment. It was like, I felt like God was just sending me a message, man. Like, look, all your work the last 5.5 years, like it's adding up. It's paying off for you, man. Sometimes you can't see it, you guys. Sometimes you're going to the gym every day, you're putting in the work with your kids, or you're doing all this stuff in your life, you're grinding in your business, and you can't see that you're getting ahead. You can't see that the results are starting to compound. And all of a sudden we have these highlight moments, right? These moments where it's like all that work that you put in, you see the effect it's having in your life. And that's what this last day in prison was for me. I realized that just because I didn't know these guys or talk to them, I might see them on the yard and we might like give a little head nod. I didn't realize that they were always watching me and they were seeing the way I carried myself. They were seeing how consistent I was. They were seeing the results I was getting even in there, and it gave them a feeling that I was going to get out and do something with my life. Like I was becoming undeniable, right? And in that moment, man, it just showed me that people are always watching you. And the main thing that stands out is your attitude and your effort every day. You might not realize it, but the attitude and effort you put forth, if it's positive and aligned to your vision and your goals, dude, you're getting somewhere. You're making waves. You know, you're building momentum. And you might not always see it and feel it, but it's happening. And one of the coolest things is with other people recognize it and they say something to you. They acknowledge who you're becoming. They acknowledge the change you're making, the effort you're putting forth. As humans, it feels good to get that positive feedback and regard, right? And, you know, the craziest thing happened the other day as I was sharing this on a coaching call. Because my son Mason, I shared this in another podcast, he came home from an assessment. He's getting ready to go to a private school. And he said, Sean, you know, they asked me to write about somebody in my life that was inspiring that I looked up to. And I wrote about you. And it was a really beautiful moment for me. This is my stepson. It came into his life at 7 years old. I've tried and worked relentlessly to get close to him, to be a good example and just father figure in his life. And it's been a tumultuous journey, right? But right now we're closer than ever. And he confides in me a lot of stuff. He's becoming a young man. And when he said that to me, dude, it brought tears to my eyes. It made me so happy. And my wife, Jessica, as well, you know? And so I was sharing this on the coaching call with my clients because these are men who have children. They run businesses. They're in a position of leadership. And I was just telling them, like, people are always watching you guys. This needs to be the ultimate motivation for you to get those results you're after, to be the best version of yourself. This is why we do it. You never know who's watching and how you're going to positively impact them. Like, you get results in your life, you take action, you might inspire that person that never even says anything to you to get sober, to go to the gym, to start their own business, to be a better person. Like, we're always having an effect on people, and I want you to make sure you're having a positive effect on people, not a negative one, by the way that you treat other people, by the way that you show up in your life. And so as I shared this message on my call earlier this week, I got off the call and I saw that I had a notification in Instagram. And it was like this long written paragraph from this youngster that I was in prison with. And he goes, hey, Sean, I don't know if you remember me, but when we were in prison, you really helped me. You helped me to lose a bunch of weight, to start believing in myself. You showed me what books to read, and you really just helped me to find my path. And, you know, when I got out, I was doing good for a little bit, but then I went back to smoking weed. You know, some stuff happened in a couple of my relationships. I just lost my way. He goes, recently I started watching your podcast and your content, man, and you got that fire lit in me again. I just want to thank you for always being there for me and being the example. I was like, dude, wow, like, here's this guy I haven't seen or talked to since we got out of prison, who I was working out with and mentoring. He's a youngster in prison. He was doing good, and he fell off for a little bit. But because I've been able to be constant in the way I show up in my life and sharing my message and being transparent and being a leader and being genuine and being authentic, he was able to tap back into my messages and get it back on track. And it was fucking crazy because I was just talking about that on my coaching call with my clients, sharing about that story in the prison that I was in, where all those guys, you know, acknowledged me as I was going home. He was in that prison with me. And my message on the call that day was that people are always watching. And here's this kid who I haven't talked to in years, in 5-6 years. He was watching. And because I've been constant in who I am, in my messaging, in my behavior, in my habits, you know, he was able to tune back into my podcast and get inspired to get back on track. That's what I mean, dude. There's invisible stuff happening around you all the time. You don't know who's receiving your messages. You don't know who's watching your behavior. You don't know who's going to be impacted or inspired by who you're becoming. You got to recognize, man, that something greater is at work here, and we can't always see it. you know? But the main thing is that people are always watching you, and they're going to pay attention to your attitude and your effort each and every day. Let that and this message be the ultimate driver behind your actions and who you become. Know that if you do the right thing for long enough in your life, if you follow the path that God has called you to follow, and you give maximum effort every day, and you face your fears, and you go against the doubt inside of you, and you don't care what people think if you change, and you do good in your life, you read more books, you learn new things, you sharpen yourself with skills, you develop your physique, you get sober, like you become an elite individual. Dude, on that journey to whatever you want in life, it might be a new business, a new marriage, a new evolved version of yourself, whatever it is, you're going to impact so many people, dude, and so much good is going to come out of that endeavor, of that effort that you put forth. And I just want you to know that you're capable, you're made for more, and other people need to see that, man, because they feel that inside of them too. And when you take action, you give them permission to pursue their dreams. You give them the courage to go after what they want in life and not settle. Together, man, we can change millions and billions of lives. But I need you to step up and be on this fight with me, you guys. I love you. Let's fucking go.